The first time my sister accused me of stealing something from her, we were 7 and 9 years old fighting over a pink bicycle with a bent training wheel. I remember standing in the driveway confused while Claire sobbed dramatically to our father, insisting I always took the best things first. Dad solved the argument the same way he solved nearly every conflict in our family. He bought Claire a brand new bicycle the next day and told me to be patient because your sister feels things more deeply. That sentence quietly shaped our entire relationship. Claire's emotions became emergencies. Mine became responsibilities. My name is Evelyn Mercer, and by 36 years old, I had spent most of my life carefully minimizing my successes around my younger sister because our family treated her insecurity like a medical condition everyone else needed to manage. Claire was beautiful, impulsive, emotionally intense, and permanently convinced life cheated her somehow. Meanwhile, I became the dependable daughter. Good grades. Stable career. Calm under pressure. Parents love describing one child as easy without realizing easy children usually just learn early nobody is coming emotionally if they become difficult too. Our father, Richard Mercer, built a regional logistics company from one delivery truck into a multimillion-dollar operation across 3 states. He worshipped work with frightening intensity. Vacations became business calls. Family dinners got interrupted by warehouse emergencies. But Dad understood achievement as love. If he taught you the business, trusted your judgment, or included you in meetings, that meant you mattered. Claire hated the company from childhood onward. Dad cares more about spreadsheets than people, she complained constantly growing up. Honestly? Sometimes she wasn't wrong. But while Claire rebelled dramatically through bad relationships and unfinished degrees, I quietly learned operations management sitting beside Dad during summers. Not because I desperately wanted the company initially. Because working together was the only time he seemed fully present. By 28, I became Chief Operations Officer officially. Claire called it favoritism. Dad called it competence. Family gatherings turned increasingly tense afterward. Claire rolled her eyes anytime business came up. Mom constantly pressured me to include your sister more despite Claire openly mocking the company for years. She feels left behind, Mom whispered once after Claire stormed out of Thanksgiving because Dad spent 20 minutes discussing freight contracts with me. That's not my fault. Mom sighed dramatically. Everything feels easy for you. Easy. Another dangerous family word. People confuse visible composure with effortless existence constantly. They never saw panic attacks before presentations or 70-hour workweeks or the pressure of knowing Dad's approval disappeared whenever performance slipped. Then came the heart attack. Sudden. Massive. Dad collapsed inside a hotel gym during a business conference in Atlanta 3 weeks before his 65th birthday. Dead before the ambulance arrived. Just gone. The funeral home smelled like lilies and expensive carpet the morning of visitation. Employees from every warehouse location arrived wearing black suits and stunned expressions. Dad terrified people sometimes, but he built loyalty through sheer force of commitment. Claire arrived late, already crying loudly enough that conversations paused when she entered. Mom practically collapsed into her arms while I stood nearby accepting condolences mechanically from clients and managers. Grief felt strange honestly. Not dramatic sadness initially. More like losing gravity suddenly. Around noon, the lawyer handling Dad's estate quietly pulled me aside near the hallway. Your father's will is straightforward, he explained carefully. But I strongly recommend waiting until after services before discussing details publicly. My stomach tightened immediately. Why? He hesitated. Because your sister may react emotionally. There it was. Everyone managing Claire's feelings preemptively again even during funeral arrangements. What does the will say? Majority ownership of Mercer Logistics transfers to you effective immediately. Cold spread through my chest. Me? You already functionally run most operations. True. But still. Dad never discussed succession directly. Claire receives several investment properties and trust assets, the lawyer continued. Financially, distributions are roughly equivalent. Roughly equivalent. Important phrasing. Because emotionally? Claire would hear only one thing. The company. Dad's legacy. Proof. Mom knows? Not yet. Of course not. I spent the next hour nauseous with dread instead of grief. Because suddenly I understood exactly how the rest of my family would interpret this. Not as business practicality. As emotional favoritism finally confirmed legally. The will reading happened privately in a side office before the funeral service began. Me. Claire. Mom. The lawyer. 10 minutes later, chaos exploded exactly as predicted. Are you kidding me? Claire screamed so loudly someone outside knocked asking if everything was okay. Mom started crying immediately. Richard wouldn't do this. The lawyer remained calm. Your husband updated the will 18 months ago. Claire rounded on me with murder in her eyes. You manipulated him. There it was instantly. My achievements transformed into conspiracy because accepting merit threatened Claire's entire worldview. I didn't know. Liar. Mom grabbed Claire's arm desperately. Please not today. But Claire was spiraling now. You always get everything. I stared at her exhausted already. You never wanted the company. That's not the point. Tears streamed down her face, ruining mascara. He loved you more. Silence crashed across the room. Because underneath decades of sibling tension lived that raw, terrible fear finally spoken aloud. Mom covered her mouth, crying harder now. Claire, tell me I'm wrong. Claire screamed at me. I opened my mouth. Closed it again. Because honestly, I didn't know anymore. Dad understood me better. Trusted me more professionally. But love? How do children measure something parents distribute through different currencies? He left you millions, I said quietly. But he left you his name. There it was. The real wound. Legacy feels emotional even when money balances mathematically. Claire laughed bitterly through tears. Congratulations. Then she stormed out, slamming the office door so hard framed photographs rattled. Mom looked at me like I caused a natural disaster somehow. Why would your father do this? I almost answered because I worked beside him for 15 years while Claire mocked everything he built. But grief and guilt tangled too tightly. I don't know. That was partially true. The funeral service began an hour later beneath heavy silence. Claire refused sitting near me. Mom looked emotionally shattered between us. I delivered the eulogy because public speaking terrified Claire, and Dad always relied on me during company events anyway. Funny how families depend on stable children most while resenting them simultaneously. Halfway through the reception afterward, everything changed. The funeral home doors opened quietly. 3 strangers walked inside. A woman maybe early 40s. A teenage boy around 16. And a little girl clutching a stuffed rabbit wearing black patent shoes. The woman held a framed photograph of my father against her chest. At first, I assumed distant relatives maybe. Then the little girl looked directly toward Dad's casket and whispered loudly, "Mommy, why is Daddy sleeping there?" Every sound in the room disappeared instantly. Absolute silence. My blood turned to ice. Claire actually stopped mid-conversation. Mom froze completely beside the refreshment table, staring at the child like she'd seen a ghost. The woman looked terrified, suddenly realizing everyone heard. But it was too late. The little girl pointed toward the casket again. "That's my daddy." My knees nearly gave out. "What?" Mom whispered. The teenage boy stepped protectively beside the woman while funeral guests exchanged horrified glances. Then the woman spoke softly, voice shaking. "I'm sorry. We didn't mean to interrupt." Interrupt. As though another secret family arriving at a funeral counted as poor timing instead of emotional nuclear warfare. Claire moved first. Fast. Furious. "Who the hell are you?" The woman swallowed hard. "My name is Andrea." Her eyes shifted toward Dad's photograph briefly before returning to us. "Richard supported us privately for many years." Supported us. My entire body went numb. Mom made a sound I'd never heard from another human before. Not quite sobbing. Not quite screaming. No. Andrea looked devastated herself now. I didn't come here to hurt anyone. Claire laughed sharply. Unstable. You brought his children to his funeral. The little girl started crying immediately from the shouting. The teenage boy wrapped an arm around her, protectively glaring at everyone like he expected violence. How long? Mom whispered weakly. Andrea closed her eyes briefly. 17 years. 17 years. Longer than some marriages. I physically sat down because my legs stopped functioning properly. Around us, funeral guests awkwardly scattered, pretending not to stare while absolutely staring. Small-town business communities survive on gossip oxygen. By sunset everyone would know. Claire turned toward me suddenly, wild-eyed. Did you know? The accusation stunned me speechless. What? Maybe that's why he gave you the company. There it was. Even now. Even this somehow became my fault too. I didn't know, I whispered honestly. Andrea stepped forward carefully, then reached into her purse, pulling out documents. Richard wanted them provided eventually. She handed them toward Mom with trembling hands. Photos. Birthday cards. Financial records. Years of another life hidden parallel to ours. Mom wouldn't touch them. Get out. Andrea's face crumpled instantly. Please, get out. The little girl burst into louder tears, now clinging desperately to Andrea's leg. The teenage boy stared directly at Dad's casket with pure hatred. And suddenly my heart broke for him specifically. Because whatever else happened here, that boy lost a father too. Claire pointed viciously toward the doors. You ruined his funeral. Andrea laughed once softly through tears. No, she whispered. Richard did. Then she gathered the children and left while 200 stunned mourners pretended not watching history implode publicly. Mom collapsed shortly afterward. Actual physical collapse. Ambulance. Sedatives. The rest of the reception dissolved into whispers and unfinished casseroles. I drove home alone that night, shaking so badly I missed my exit twice. Dad had another family. Another daughter. 17 years. The information felt too large for comprehension initially. Like trying to emotionally swallow an ocean. Claire called at 2 a.m. drunk probably. Crying definitely. Everything was fake. I stared at my apartment ceiling silently. Not everything. He had another child. Her voice cracked completely. How do you lie that long? I thought about Dad teaching me freight logistics at 14. Helping Claire buy her first car at 21. Vacation photos. Christmas mornings. Business trips suddenly suspicious in retrospect. I don't know. Silence. Then quietly, do you think he loved them more too? There it was again. The childhood wound surviving even this catastrophe. I closed my eyes hard. Claire, seriously. She sounded small suddenly. Young. How many families can one person actually love honestly? I had no answer. The weeks afterward became public humiliation layered over private grief. News spread fast. Employees whispered. Local papers hinted at personal controversies surrounding Mercer Logistics' leadership transition. Mom refused leaving the house. Claire spiraled through rage cycles, alternating between hating Dad and desperately defending his memory. Then 2 months later, Andrea requested meeting privately. Against everyone's advice, I agreed. We met at a quiet coffee shop halfway between cities. She looked exhausted. Older than at the funeral somehow. I'm sorry, she said immediately, sitting down. About all of it. I studied her carefully. Did you know about us? She nodded slowly. Richard said your marriage was complicated. Complicated. Interesting euphemism for secret second families. Did he promise he'd leave my mother? Andrea looked away instantly. Answer enough. Eventually, she admitted softly. At first. Of course. There's always an eventually. Why come to the funeral? She swallowed hard. Because my daughter deserved goodbye. That sentence dismantled some of my anger unexpectedly. Because beneath betrayal existed innocent children trying to understand why their father vanished too. We talked for almost 3 hours. Richard paid for their house, attended birthdays, split holidays creatively through business excuses. The teenage boy, Mason, knew about us for years. The little girl, Lucy, believed Richard traveled constantly for work. He loved your company, Andrea admitted quietly. He talked about you constantly. Me? Why? He said you understood responsibility better than anyone. That nearly made me laugh bitterly. Responsibility. The trait Dad valued above honesty apparently. And Claire? Andrea hesitated carefully. He worried about her. There it was. Even across double lives, Dad maintained the same emotional patterns. Admiration for competence. Concern for instability. Maybe that counted as love in his language. Maybe not. 6 months later, Claire and I finally had dinner together without screaming. Progress. She stirred wine silently a while before speaking. I hated you growing up. Honest at least. I know. Because Dad looked at you like you mattered. That hurt because part of me understood exactly what she meant. He looked at you like he needed to protect you, I said quietly. Claire laughed sadly. Same thing. No. I thought about years carrying expectations while Claire carried emotional fragility everyone managed constantly. Different damage. Same family. Protection and trust aren't the same. She looked at me carefully then. Did you ever actually want the company? Interesting question. I considered it seriously for the first time maybe ever. I wanted him proud of me. Claire's eyes filled instantly because suddenly we were children again underneath all this. 2 daughters translating love through incomplete evidence from a complicated man. We still don't fully speak about Dad comfortably now. Some betrayals stay too large for neat emotional conclusions. Mom divorced a dead man emotionally before burying him legally. Claire started therapy. I met Lucy twice. She has Dad's exact laugh which feels both beautiful and unbearable. And me? I run Mercer Logistics because despite everything, I'm good at it. Maybe too good. Sometimes late at night walking through warehouse floors, I think about how families fracture long before secrets emerge publicly. The affair didn't create all our wounds. It just exposed the fault lines already running underneath us for decades. My sister thought I stole her life because our father trusted me with his business. I thought Claire received more emotional protection because she needed it louder. Meanwhile, Dad built entire parallel worlds trying to satisfy different versions of himself until eventually none of them fit together anymore. That's the tragedy of people who confuse providing with loving honestly.